For 5 years, I missed birthdays. For 5 years, I ignored her voice. This year, I gave her my job. If you've ever been too busy for family, this story is for you. Hit like, subscribe, and let's begin. I never thought I'd be the one to say this, but my mom has always been the type to guilt trip you into submission. It's like she has this invisible leash that she tugs on whenever she feels like I'm not giving her enough attention. I've always been busy, juggling a demanding job and a social life that keeps me on my toes. But lately, it feels like she's been turning up the heat. It started with the subtle hints. "You never have time for us anymore," she'd say, her voice dripping with disappointment. Or, "I miss the days when you were still around." I'd brush it off, thinking it was just her way of expressing how much she misses having me under her roof. But as the days turned into weeks, the guilt started to seep in. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I got a call from her. Her voice was trembling, and I could hear the unshed tears in her tone. "I feel so alone here," she said. "Your dad's been gone for years, and I just wish you could be here more often." I felt a pang in my chest. She was right. I had been so caught up in my own life that I hadn't realized how much she might be struggling. I promised her I'd make more of an effort, but deep down, I knew it was easier said than done. My job wasn't something I could just leave behind. It was my passion, my livelihood, and it demanded every ounce of my energy. But she had a way of making me feel like I was the worst daughter in the world. "You're always too busy for family," she'd say, her words cutting deeper each time. "It's like you don't care about us anymore." I knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep ignoring the guilt gnawing at me. So I made a decision that I thought would solve everything. I'd let her babysit my job. The holiday season was always a difficult time for me. While everyone else was bustling around, decorating their homes and planning festive gatherings, I was buried under a mountain of work. This year was no different. My job had been especially demanding, and I knew I wouldn't be able to take time off for the holidays. Mom called me one evening, her voice filled with excitement. "We're having a family gathering this Christmas," she said. "Everyone's coming home. It's going to be wonderful." My heart sank. I wanted nothing more than to be there, to spend time with my family, to feel the warmth and joy of the holidays. But I knew it was impossible. "Mom, I don't think I can make it this year," I said softly, trying to brace myself for her reaction. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When she finally spoke, her voice was tinged with disappointment. "You always have an excuse," she said quietly. "Your job is more important than family, isn't it?" I felt a lump form in my throat. "It's not like that, Mom," I tried to explain. "I really can't take time off right now. It's a crucial period at work." She sighed heavily. "I understand," she said, but I could tell she didn't. "Just promise me you'll try to come home next year." I promised her I would, even though I knew it might not happen. The guilt was becoming unbearable. I could see the hurt in her eyes every time we spoke, and I knew I needed to do something to make it right. As the holidays approached, I found myself working even longer hours, trying to make up for the time I knew I couldn't spend with my family. I missed the laughter, the familiar faces, and the comfort of being home. Instead, I was alone in my apartment, surrounded by papers and deadlines. On Christmas Eve, I received a text from my mom. "We miss you," it read. "Come home whenever you can." I stared at the message, feeling a wave of sadness wash over me. I knew I had to make a change. I couldn't keep living like this, sacrificing my family for my job. But I also couldn't just walk away from everything I had worked so hard to build. As I sat there staring at the text, I made a decision. I would find a way to balance both. I owed it to my mom and to myself. The conversation with my mom on Christmas Eve replayed in my mind constantly. Her words, "You work too much," echoed like a haunting mantra. I knew she was right, but admitting it was harder than I thought. One evening, after another exhausting day at the office, I collapsed on my couch. My phone buzzed with a message from my mom. "When was the last time you took a break?" she asked. I stared at the screen, feeling the weight of her concern. I tried to justify my long hours, telling myself it was necessary for my career. But deep down, I knew it was becoming an unhealthy obsession. I was neglecting the people who mattered most to me, all in the name of success. My mom's words kept haunting me. "You work too much." She wasn't just talking about the hours I put in. She was talking about the life I was missing out on. The family gatherings, the quiet evenings at home, the simple moments that make life worth living. I realized that if I didn't change, I would lose more than just a holiday. I would lose the connections that truly mattered. It was time to take a step back and reassess my priorities. After weeks of feeling the weight of my mom's disappointment, I started to notice a pattern in her behavior. She would call me, her voice dripping with a mix of concern and frustration. "I just don't want you to burn out," she'd say. But it felt more like a veiled accusation. One day she called and said, "I was thinking maybe you should take a break. I could help you out with your job for a while." Her tone was casual, but I could sense the underlying tension. It was her passive-aggressive way of telling me that I needed to prioritize family. I hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Part of me wanted to take her up on the offer, to see if it could work, but another part of me was wary. I knew my mom well enough to know that she had a plan, and it probably involved me spending more time at home. "Mom, that's really sweet of you, but I don't think it's a good idea," I said, trying to be gentle. "My job is pretty complicated, and I don't want to burden you with it." She sighed, and I could almost hear the disappointment in her breath. "I just want to help, honey," she said softly. "You're always so busy, and I worry about you." I felt a pang of guilt. I knew she meant well, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was trying to manipulate me into spending more time with her. It was a delicate balance, trying to honor her wishes without sacrificing my career. I promised her I'd think about it, but deep down, I knew it was a decision I couldn't make lightly. The days turned into weeks, and my mom's offer to help with my job lingered in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than just a kind gesture. It felt like a test, a way for her to see if I truly cared about balancing my life. One evening, after another grueling day at work, I received a text from her. "I've been thinking a lot about helping you out," she wrote. "I really believe it could be good for both of us. What do you say?" I stared at the message, my heart racing. Part of me wanted to refuse, to maintain control over my career. But another part of me was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. The guilt of neglecting my family was becoming unbearable, and I knew I needed to make a change. I took a deep breath and replied, "Mom, I think you're right. I could use some help. Let's talk about it more." Her response was immediate. "I'm so glad you're considering it. Let's set up a time to discuss the details." As I put my phone down, I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. I knew this was a big step, and I wasn't sure how it would play out. But I also knew that I couldn't keep living the way I was. My job had become an all-consuming force in my life, and I was losing sight of what truly mattered. The next day, we sat down and talked about the logistics. She had some ideas about how she could help, and I listened carefully, trying to keep an open mind. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was necessary. I owed it to her, and to myself, to find a way to balance my life. As we finished our conversation, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this could work. Maybe I could finally find a way to have both a successful career and a fulfilling family life. The morning of my mom's first day helping with my job arrived, and I woke up with a mix of excitement and anxiety. I had set up a small desk for her in my home office, and I had prepared a list of tasks I thought she could handle. But as she walked in, I could see the determination in her eyes. She was ready to prove herself. "Okay, Mom, let's go over what I've got for you today," I said, trying to sound confident. I handed her the list, which included responding to some basic emails and organizing some files. "Just take your time and let me know if you have any questions." She nodded, her eyes scanning the list. "I think I can handle this," she said with a smile. "Don't worry, I've got this." As she settled in, I went back to my own work, trying to focus on my tasks. But every few minutes, I found myself glancing over at her, watching as she typed away on her laptop. She seemed to be doing well, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. A few hours into the day, I heard her call out, "Hey, can you take a look at this email? I want to make sure I'm getting it right." I walked over to her desk and looked at the email she had drafted. It was simple but effective, and I could tell she had put a lot of thought into it. "This looks great, Mom," I said, genuinely impressed. "You're doing really well," she smiled, her eyes lighting up with pride. "Thanks, honey. I just want to make sure I'm doing everything right." As the day went on, we fell into a rhythm. She handled the emails and files with ease, and I found myself feeling more and more confident in her abilities. By the end of the day, I was exhausted, but I also felt a sense of accomplishment. Maybe this could work. Maybe we could find a way to balance everything. As we packed up for the day, she turned to me and said, "I had a lot of fun today." I didn't realize how much I missed being busy. I smiled, feeling a warmth in my chest. "Me too, Mom. Me too." As the days turned into weeks, my mom settled into her new role with surprising ease. She became an integral part of my work life, handling tasks with a diligence that impressed even me. Our relationship grew stronger, and I found myself enjoying the time we spent together. It felt like we were finally finding a balance. One afternoon, as I was deep in a project, my mom's voice broke through my concentration. "Honey, can you come here for a moment?" she called out, her tone urgent. I looked up from my computer and saw her standing by the phone, her face pale and her hands trembling. "What's wrong?" I asked, my heart pounding. She handed me the phone. "It's for you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's your boss." I took the phone, my mind racing. "Hello?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey, it's me," my boss said. "I just got a call from one of our clients. They're not happy with the work that's been done on their project. They mentioned something about emails and files being mishandled." Stomach dropped. "I'll look into it right away," I said, my mind already racing through the possibilities. I hung up and turned to my mom, who was watching me with wide eyes. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," I said, trying to reassure her. "Let's go through the emails and files together and see what happened." We spent the next hour poring over the work she had done, but everything seemed to be in order. It wasn't until we reached a particular email that I noticed something off. The tone was too casual, too informal for a client. I looked at my mom, who was visibly shaken. "I didn't mean to," she said, her voice trembling. "I just wanted to make it sound friendly." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "It's okay, Mom," I said, though I wasn't sure if I was reassuring her or myself. "We'll fix this. I'll talk to the client and explain what happened." As I made the call, I could feel her eyes on me, filled with worry and guilt. I reassured the client that it was a simple mistake and promised to rectify it immediately. They were understanding, but I could tell they were disappointed. After hanging up, I turned to my mom. "We all make mistakes," I said softly. "But we need to be more careful. This job is important, and we can't afford to let our guard down." She nodded. Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, honey. I just wanted to help." I hugged her tightly, feeling a mix of frustration and sympathy. "It's okay, Mom," I said, my voice breaking. "We'll get through this together." As we sat there, I realized that balancing my job and my family was going to be harder than I thought. But I also knew that we couldn't give up. We had come too far to let one mistake break us. The days following the phone call were tense. My mom was more careful with her work, but the incident had left a shadow over our collaboration. I could see the worry in her eyes, and I knew she felt responsible for the mistake. I tried to reassure her, but the guilt was eating away at her. One afternoon during our lunch break, I decided it was time to have a heart-to-heart talk. We sat down at a small cafe near my office, the warm sunlight filtering through the windows. I took a deep breath and looked at her. "Mom, I want to talk about what happened," I said gently. "It's been on both our minds, and I think we need to address it." She nodded, her eyes downcast. "I know I messed up," she said softly. "I just wanted to do a good job, and I ended up making things worse." I reached out and took her hand. "You didn't mess up," I said firmly. "Mistakes happen, and it's how we handle them that matters. What happened was a learning experience for both of us." She looked up at me, her eyes searching mine. "Do you really think so?" she asked, her voice hopeful. I nodded. "Absolutely. We all have things to learn, and this was just one of those moments. You've been doing great, and I appreciate all the help you've been giving me." She smiled, a small but genuine smile. "Thank you, honey. I needed to hear that." We spent the rest of our lunch break talking about everything from work to family, and I could see the weight lifting off her shoulders. It was as if the simple act of talking openly had helped us both heal. We walked back to the office. I felt a renewed sense of purpose. My mom was more than just a helper. She was a partner, and we were in this together. We had faced a challenge and come out stronger, and I knew that as long as we kept communicating and supporting each other, we could handle anything that came our way. That lunch break was more than just a break from work. It was a lesson in understanding, forgiveness, and the power of a supportive relationship. As the weeks went by, my mom and I fell into a comfortable routine. We had learned from our mistakes and were working more efficiently than ever. But just when I thought things were going smoothly, disaster struck. It was a Monday morning, and I had a crucial deadline looming over my head. The project I was working on was massive, and the stakes were high. I had been up late the night before, working tirelessly to ensure everything was perfect. My mom had been helping me, but I knew the final responsibility rested on me. As I sat at my desk, going through the final details, I heard a knock on the door. It was my mom, her face pale and her hands trembling. "Honey, I think there's a problem," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I looked up, my heart pounding. "What's wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She handed me a piece of paper. "I think I made a mistake in the calculations," she said, her eyes filled with fear. I didn't realize how important it was. I took the paper and scanned it quickly. My heart sank as I realized the gravity of the situation. The calculations were off, and it could potentially ruin the entire project. I felt a wave of panic wash over me, but I knew I had to stay calm. "Mom, it's okay," I said, trying to reassure her. "We can fix this. Let's go through it together and see where the mistake happened." We spent the next few hours poring over the calculations, trying to find the error. The clock was ticking, and the deadline was fast approaching. I could see the worry in my mom's eyes, and I knew she felt responsible for the mistake. "Mom, it's not your fault," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We all make mistakes. What's important is that we fix it." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we found the error and corrected it. I sent the final version to my boss, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew I had done everything I could, but I also knew that the damage might already be done. As I sat there waiting for a response, I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. I had faced another challenge, and I knew that no matter what happened, I had to keep moving forward. The days following the deadline disaster were filled with a mix of anxiety and relief. My boss had accepted the final version of the project, but I could tell he was less than thrilled with the last-minute changes. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, but the experience had left me shaken. One afternoon, as I was catching up on some emails, I overheard a conversation between two colleagues. They were talking about the recent project and the issues that had arisen. "I heard she had to get her mom to help her out," one of them said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I guess she couldn't handle it on her own." I felt a pang of anger and embarrassment. I knew they were talking about me, and it stung to hear their judgment. I tried to brush it off, but their words lingered in my mind, making me question my own abilities. As I sat there, staring at my screen, I realized that I needed to have a reality check. I had been so focused on balancing my job and my family that I had forgotten to take care of myself. The stress and the gossip were taking a toll on me, and I knew I needed to step back and reassess my situation. That evening, after my mom had left, I sat down at my desk and took a deep breath. I needed to be honest with myself. I had been trying to do too much, and it was affecting my work and my well-being. I needed to find a way to prioritize my mental health without sacrificing my career or my family. I decided to take a few days off to clear my head and figure out my next steps. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I also knew that I couldn't keep going the way I was. I needed to find a balance that worked for me, and that meant making some tough decisions. As I packed up my things for the day, I felt a sense of determination. I was going to take care of myself, and I was going to find a way to make everything work. It wouldn't be easy, but I knew I had the strength to do it. The few days off gave me the clarity I needed. I realized that while my intentions were good, I had been pushing myself and my mom too hard. I needed to find a better way to balance everything without compromising our well-being. On my first day back, I decided to have a serious conversation with my mom. I wanted to apologize for putting her in a difficult position and for not being more understanding. We sat down in the living room, the morning sunlight casting a warm glow around us. I took a deep breath and looked at her. "Mom, I need to talk to you," I said softly. She looked at me, her eyes filled with concern. "What's wrong, honey?" "I want to apologize," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "I've been putting too much pressure on you, and I haven't been there for you the way I should have been. I know how much you wanted to help, and I appreciate everything you've done, but I think we both need to take a step back." She looked at me, her eyes softening. "I understand, honey," she said gently. "I felt the same way. I just wanted to be there for you, but I know it's been tough." I nodded, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. "I know, and I appreciate it more than you can imagine. But I think we need to find a better way to do this. Maybe we can still work together, but in a way that doesn't stress us out so much." She smiled, her eyes twinkling with hope. "I'd like that," she said. "I want to help, but I don't want it to feel like a burden." We spent the rest of the morning talking about how we could make it work. We decided to set clearer boundaries and to communicate more openly about what we could handle. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. As we finished our conversation, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I had taken a hard step, but it was one that was necessary for both of us. I knew that moving forward, we would be stronger and more understanding of each other's needs. I hugged her tightly, feeling grateful for her support and understanding. "Thank you, Mom," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "I love you. I love." "You too, honey," she replied, her voice warm and comforting. "We'll get through this together." With that, I knew we were on the right path. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with honesty and support, we could face whatever came our way. As the weeks went by, my mom and I found a new rhythm. We were still working together, but the pressure had lifted. We had set clear boundaries and communicated more openly, and it made all the difference. I felt a renewed sense of balance, and my mom seemed more at ease as well. One evening, after a particularly productive day, we sat down in the kitchen to have dinner. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow through the windows. I looked at my mom and felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. Mom, I've been thinking, I said, my voice soft. I've been so focused on balancing my job and my family that I've almost forgotten what family really means. She looked at me, her eyes filled with curiosity. What do you mean, honey? I took a deep breath. I've been treating family time like something I have to earn, like it's a reward for working hard. But it's not. Family isn't just free time. It's about being present, no matter how busy we are. She nodded, her eyes softening. You're right, she said gently. Family is about being there for each other, even if it's just for a few minutes a day. I smiled, feeling a sense of clarity. I want to do better, I said. I want to be more present, even when I'm working. I don't want to miss out on the little moments anymore. She reached out and took my hand. I'm proud of you, honey, she said. Her voice filled with warmth. You're learning and growing, and that's what matters most. We sat there in silence for a moment, the warmth of the setting sun enveloping us. I felt a sense of peace settle over me, knowing that I was on the right path. I had been so focused on balancing my job and my family that I had almost forgotten the true meaning of family. Family wasn't just about free time. It was about being there for each other, no matter how busy we were. It was about cherishing the little moments and being present in each other's lives. I knew that moving forward, I would strive to be more present, to cherish every moment, and to never take my family for granted again. As we finished our dinner, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I had a lot to learn, but I was ready to take the next steps. With my mom by my side, I knew we could face whatever challenges came our way, together. The following weeks were a mix of progress and challenges. My mom and I continued to work together, but the dynamics had shifted. We were more mindful of each other's limits and more appreciative of the time we spent together. However, one morning, as I was getting ready for work, I sensed a change in the air. My mom was sitting at the kitchen table, her face buried in a cup of coffee. She looked up as I entered the room, her expression serious. "Honey, can we talk?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. I nodded, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "Sure, Mom. What's up?" She took a deep breath and looked me in the eye. "I think I need to step back from helping you with your job," she said softly. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize that it's not fair to you or to me. I want to be there for you, but I don't want to be a burden." I felt a wave of surprise and concern wash over me. "Mom, you're not a burden," I said quickly. "I appreciate all the help you've given me. I don't want you to quit." She shook her head, her eyes filled with determination. "It's not just about the help, honey. It's about finding a balance that works for both of us. I want to spend more time with you, but I also want you to focus on your career without feeling like you have to juggle everything." I sat down across from her, feeling a mix of emotions. "I understand," I said slowly, "but I don't want you to feel like you have to leave." She smiled, her eyes twinkling with warmth. "It's not about leaving, honey. It's about finding a new way to be there for each other. I'll still be around, but I want you to know that you can focus on your job without worrying about me." I nodded, feeling a sense of gratitude and respect for her decision. "Thank you, Mom," I said softly. "I love you, and I appreciate everything you've done." She reached out and took my hand. "I love you too, honey," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "We'll find our way together." As we sat there, holding hands, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. My mom's decision was hard, but it was the right one. We needed to find a new balance, one that honored both our needs and our relationship. With her support and understanding, I knew I could face whatever challenges came my way. We would continue to grow and learn together, and I was grateful for every moment we shared. The days following my mom's decision to step back from helping with my job were bittersweet. I missed having her around in the office, but I also felt a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. Her decision had forced me to reevaluate my priorities and find a better balance in my life. One evening, as I was finishing up some work, I looked around my office and felt a sense of gratitude. I had come a long way, and so had my mom. We had faced challenges together, learned from our mistakes, and grown stronger as a result. I decided to surprise her with a small gesture of appreciation. I picked up the phone and called her. "Hey, Mom?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I was thinking about you today, and I wanted to say thank you." She laughed softly. "For what, honey?" "For everything," I said sincerely. "For being there for me, for helping me see the importance of balance, and for teaching me so much about life and love." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and I could hear the emotion in her voice when she spoke. "I love you, honey," she said softly, "and I'm so proud of you." I felt a lump form in my throat. "I love you too, Mom," I said, my voice breaking, "and I'm proud of us for finding our way through this together." We spent the rest of the evening talking, reminiscing about the past and dreaming about the future. I felt a sense of peace and contentment that I hadn't felt in a long time. My mom and I had faced challenges, but we had also grown closer and more understanding of each other. As I hung up the phone, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I knew that life would continue to throw challenges my way, but I also knew that I had the strength and support to face them. My mom had taught me that family wasn't just about spending time together. It was about being there for each other, no matter what. With a smile on my face, I closed my laptop and looked out the window. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city. I felt a sense of gratitude and hope, knowing that I had a newfound respect for the people in my life and the balance that made it all possible. I knew that moving forward, I would continue to grow and learn, and I would always cherish the moments I shared with my mom. Together, we had found our way, and I knew that whatever the future held, we would face it with love and resilience.